conversation are primarily about the future of our country. Project C is it's an organization of Cameroonians, primarily in the diaspora, but not limited to the diaspora. A not-for-profit organization duly registered in the United States with a 501c3 status. And we have been
Okay, I found this on the web for primarily in the diaspora, but not limited to the diaspora, not-for-profit organization registered in the United States.
Sorry, that was my phone picking up everything I was saying. It's crazy. Well, I just want to I just wanted to start with that introduction. I see many people joining us here for the first time, but Project C has been around since July, and really the idea was to come together. Our mission is to figure out what we can do to ensure that our country transitions into a peaceful and prosperous future. And in the past few weeks, we have really been talking about how we could redefine the nation Cameroon, how we citizens, we, the people of Cameroon, can redefine who we are as a nation. And in that context, work together to develop or even draft, have the audacity to bring Cameroonians together for us to be able to reflect on and think and put forward a draft constitution for the kind of Cameroon that we want, that would ensure that generations of Cameroonians will not be plagued with some of the challenges that we face today as a country. And we do this not as a political party. We're not aligned to any political party. Our only colors are green, red, yellow, and those represent the colors of Cameroon. We are not against anyone. We are for everyone. All we are doing is trying to build a country that meets the aspirations and dreams of Cameroonians everywhere. So that's who we are. That's what we do. And that's why we're here. And we do this every Saturday. We're grateful for those of you, the recurrent faces and names that I see here every week. But more importantly, to everyone that joins us every week, who listens to us on all the platforms, I want to thank Mimi Mefo Mfo for broadcasting this on her YouTube channel, Rebecca Enonchong on her X channel, and several other platforms that are collaborating to ensure that we can reach as many Cameroonians, to inspire, to educate, and to engage Cameroonians. We can't give up on this beautiful country, Cameroon. We can't give up on this beautiful dream called Cameroon. We can't give up on this amazing project, the Project Cameroon. And so that's why we're here today. And we don't have all the answers. That's why we have these conversations. We learn, we grow, we share, and eventually we hope that we may be able to help in our own small way put our country on a path to prosperity for future generations. At this point, I'm looking out to see if Leopold is with us, so that Leopold can come in and welcome our French-speaking audiences, our French-speaking audience. But I don't think Leopold is with us. He must be. So I'm going to bring in Eric here as well. And Eric, well, thank you for being here. I know that you have been on the move, but if you do not mind, we usually have the tendency of looking at the contextualizing what we're doing with everything that is happening in Cameroon, with everything that's happening in the news in the world, and how that aligns with what we're doing here today. But the most fascinating thing for me, before I turn this over to you, is I look at the country Benin and the Republic of Benin. My first visit to Benin was in 1997, and you know, I laughed at the country when I landed at Benin's airport. Last weekend, Benin, there was a peaceful transfer of power to a 49-year-old president in Benin. Not one blood was shed, not one life lost. Peaceful transfer of power with dignity and respect, with all living past presidents participating in the process. That's a dream that has for too long eluded us, Cameroon. And this is much more than, when we talk about transfer of power, people think about it as individuals. But this is much more than the individuals. It is building a nation, it's institutions, it's values, core values. All of those things are what enable that to happen. So I wanted to just turn this over to you, and I'll come back and absolutely, without Leopold, I'll welcome our French speakers.
Right. Thank you very much, Ari. I happen, you know, Leopold is, you know, we're all on the road. Leopold is in Nairobi, as you know well, and I know he's leaving some events in one part of Nairobi and heading out to where he can conveniently be part of us, and he'll be there in a few minutes. So he will be joining us in a few minutes. He just called to let me know that. And of course, he will say bonjour to all of our French listeners. I also, like you, happy to see a lot of friends, new ones especially, who've not been a part of this, at least not in the Zoom, but may have followed the conference or this recording on other platforms like the Mimi Mefo platform or the Rebecca Enonchong Twitter platform and so on. I see Professor Joyce Ashutantang, who's my twin author of a book we issued last year, and we're looking forward to issuing another this year. I'm happy to see Joyce here. It's very encouraging, and the smile, of course, is encouraging. I also take note of my brother John Gala, who's here, and many others. So thank you all for coming. And let me to pick up on what you said, Ari, about Benin, and which is what we do in the lead in to this program. Just before I do that, Ari, am I better off this way or the other way?
This way.
Is this
way? This is better.
That's what I thought. Okay, they keep telling me that. So we are in a very intriguing. I'm not sure that's the right word. Just is a professor of language, and she may take me on that. But the Leopold is here. The very intriguing period in not only the history of Cameroon but the history of Africa. This time, before I get into that, I think it's only normal that we let Leopold welcome our French-speaking brothers and sisters. And Léopold, je viens de dire pourquoi tu es arrivé avec un tout petit retard, parce que tu étais en train de manger le nyamachoma à Nairobi. Okay, over to you, Léopold.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Vraiment, bonjour à notre très aimable audience. Et oui, effectivement, il se trouve qu'aujourd'hui, c'était le dernier jour pour l'année de la communauté camerounaise à Nairobi. Et donc, Alain Grenon, qui est un doyen ici, m'a fait le plaisir de me présenter à cette communauté très, très bien organisée. Et je leur ai parlé de Project C et ils nous encouragent énormément dans Project C, compte tenu de la noblesse, comme ils disent, de nos missions. Donc voilà un peu. J'ai dû les laisser pour revenir à cet important rendez-vous de ce soir, compte tenu vraiment de son importance et que nous sommes à la veille de nos activités pour la Convention constitutionnelle pour laquelle nous recevons de plus en plus d'encouragement de la part des Camerounais qui reconnaissent avec recul, qui reconnaissent la pertinence de ce projet, de cette mission, de cette ambition. Bon, nous avons dit que cela nous associe tous, cela nous concerne tous. C'est vraiment un Cameroun pour tous, une bonne fois pour toutes. Donc voilà un peu. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Leopold. Thank you for joining us, even though you're you had to leave the party to be here. That tells us really how important this rendezvous, as you put it, rendezvous is for all of us. Being here every Saturday, and we've done this for many months. So before that introduction from Leopold, Eric was about to speak about the context of what we're trying to do and everything that is happening around us on the continent of Africa, and why having to rethink the nation of Cameroon is incredibly important. And we just saw what the peaceful transition that took place in the country of Benin. So that in itself is something that we need to we should inspire us. Eric, I'll pass this on to you.
Yeah, thanks again, Ari. What I want to do, and Leopold, I hope you'll kind of summarize this in French when I'm done. But there are two very important developments on the continent that should garner our attention, because in some ways they speak to not only what is happening around us, but also to what we should be preparing for and how we should be going forward. And I'm talking specifically in this case about the two things I mentioned, Senegal and Benin. In Senegal, we saw a rupture between the Prime Minister of a few days ago, Sonko, and the president, Diomaye Faye. Simple. The president decided to fire the prime minister because they couldn't essentially agree on policy options. And then, of course, the prime minister is elected president of the National Assembly, the number 2 position in the country. That's not what's intriguing. What's interesting is what really happens between the two. And that's what I think, that's what I want to talk about, and I want us to internalize and try to understand, because what is happening in Senegal points to where Africa has to go or needs to go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Eric, this was the security issue I said I was trying to handle at the very beginning. Apparently, we've gotten significant attention and we're being attacked, but we anticipated these just before the show, but it was too late to make the changes. So sorry about that. I'm going to be very vigilant to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Okay. So I was saying then that the game that's being played in the continent right now and playing out in Senegal is this conflict of opposing strategies, which should not be a conflict if Africans understand it. It's a necessary path to the future we want, to the Africa we want. And when I say Africa, please see Cameroon. Essentially, we have a president, Jumai Faye, who is has decided, looked, he's exposed to a lot of the forces at play in his country and has opted for short-term gain and stability. Two key words, short-term gain and stability. He's a politician. He may be standing for re-election in 2029. He needs some wins. He needs to show the Senegalese people that he knows what he's doing. And to obtain those short-term wins, he has to conform to an international system that is determined to hold on to Africa by determining where Africa goes. The international system. And that international system is essentially, from the financial standpoint and the economic standpoint, essentially run by institutions such as the IMF. All of us have heard of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, all the time, the World Bank, and a host of others, the IFC, excluded, the International Bank for the settlement of disputes and so on. There are a number of these institutions, and to those, if you add the European Development Bank and a lot of European governments, because they created the system, as you know well, after the Second World War, to protect Europe and to ensure that Europe continues to be the dominant power in the world. These institutions, that's what they're really ultimately all about. Africa produces the resources they need or has the resources they need. Let's keep Africa afloat, but let's not allow it to soar like the mistake, quote unquote, they made with China. So it's important that Africa not collapse, but it's also important that Africans do not emerge to be a power. So President Sonko has come to recognize the importance of this. He has to play by the rules. He has to allow the IMF to dictate certain terms, to be the arbiter between Senegal and potential investors, to determine whether to tell the rest of the world whether the economy of Senegal is on solid footing or not, to make Senegal an investment destination that is worthwhile. So that's President Sonko. And through the IMF, he can, get this sense of a working economy, because the IMF will tell the world that a few investors may come in. And in the meantime, the resources of Senegal are still being exploited by others. That's what gives stability. President Sonko has opted for that. Oh, sorry, President Jumai Faye.
President Jumai.
Now,
President Jumai.
Yes, Jumai Faye. Yeah, President Jumai Faye. Now, Prime Minister Sonko, well, he's now President Sonko of the National Assembly. Mr. Sonko is saying, no. Let's do what Ibrahim Traore is doing in Mali, in Burkina Faso. Let's go the way of the AES. Let's take over our natural resources exploitation, and taking that over would obviously create instability in the short run. Those who stand to lose might even create chaos in the country, instability, and in the, so we have in the short term, this, the economy may even collapse. So that's where Sonko is going. Sonko is saying, let us, invest in our natural resources. Let's build our own mines, exploit our own mines, build our infrastructure, transform our industries, and so on. That's where Sonko is going. And there's, the world as it is, the international system is determined not to allow a country like Senegal, the Sonko option, determine the future of Senegal. They're determined not to let that happen. And that's where we are. And as Africans, we've got, neither one, and that's the important thing to note. We will not win by going the Sonko route and letting our economy, the threat of our economy is collapsing. But going the Jumai Faye approach is, in a sense, willing to accept the perpetuation of these short-term wins that do not have long-term impacts. And that's where we are. That's why I think it's important that we look at Senegal carefully, try to understand it, and make policy decisions based on what we know. If we want long-term impacts, then we have to make the right decisions. If we want short-term wins continuously, where poverty is never really fully addressed, then maybe that's an option that we have to take. But my hope for Senegal is that Jumai Faye will be a catalyst for that long-term approach. It may not be the case, but that's what that's what would be best for Senegal. It should begin to put in place the necessary instruments of growth, economic growth, and that may, so that they can gradually become an industrialized economy, exploit mining and transform them in Senegal and so on. But that's neither here nor there. It's for the leadership of Africa to understand, and those of us as the elite of that continent, we should look hard at Senegal and try to determine what approaches we will have to take on the continent. Now, if we flip over to Benin, not only as a political story, Benin is interesting. The fact that a president would work within his government to identify a forward-looking, determined, and committed and patriotic young person and say, I'll hand over to them, the same way Sonko handed over to Jumai Faye when it became impossible for him to keep moving towards the presidency. So we see this in a more deliberate, more intentional way in Benin. And again, we, once again, as a nation, I think there are lessons in here, a lot of lessons in here for Cameroon. What country do we really want? And if it's politically, we have to make the sacrifices necessary. We have to find the people with the right attitude to politics, as we saw in Benin. So this week, in my view, the last few weeks have been in many ways, educational for most of us. Both in Benin as an example worth emulating on the continent, and Senegal for all it tells us going forward. Are we going with the AES approach, or are we going with the Jumai Faye approach? But I think it is both, and we've got to figure out how we pull both together and put our countries on the path of long-term emergence and economic growth. So that's what I learned from this week, Harry. We can talk about the rest of it later on. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Eric.
Yeah. Thank you very much,
Leopold.
Eric.
Yeah.
Leopold, is there anything you want to add with reference to what Eric just said? The fascinating experiences we've seen. On the one hand, Senegal that has had a transition, and then on the other hand, Benin that really has just had a very smooth transition on the eve of Africa Day. Yeah.
Oui, tout à fait, Harry. Eric a fait un très bon développement, une bonne analyse extrêmement prudente de la situation du Sénégal. C'est parfaitement compréhensible. C'est-à-dire que cela nous interpelle en tant que pays africains. C'est-à-dire que voulons-nous finalement pour notre avenir? Et dans le cas du Sénégal, nous avons constaté la rupture entre le président Diomaye Faye et son premier ministre, son ancien premier ministre Ousmane Sonko. Et c'est un conflit d'approche, en fait, puisque à l'analyse, le président sénégalais semble être partisan d'une politique à court terme. Voudrait des résultats dans l'immédiat. Et tandis que son premier ministre Sonko, que beaucoup qualifient de souverainiste, Sonko, lui, il est beaucoup plus sensible à l'approche des États de l'AES. Une approche qui permettra d'avoir un impact vraiment sur le temps. Et donc, cette mésentente-là nous donne beaucoup à réfléchir. Et effectivement, les deux approches peuvent être combinées. Il faudrait pouvoir trouver ce qui permet pour le peuple sénégalais de ne pas trop souffrir de cela, de la grande emprise des pays européens qui ont toujours lorgné le sous-sol de l'Afrique, et puis les institutions financières internationales, notamment la Banque mondiale, le FMI. Diomaye Faye semble être très sensible à leur discours, à leur approche, ce qui n'est pas du tout du goût de Ousmane Sonko. On peut le comprendre. Donc, nous devrions voir la chose sous cet angle-là, effectivement, parce que veulent les Africains? Effectivement, nous voulons être de plus en plus souverains. Et quand on prend le cas du Burkina, Ibrahim Traoré est un bon exemple, bien sûr, à bien des égards. Tandis que pour le cas du Bénin, on assiste à une transmission vraiment pacifique du pouvoir, un transfert générationnel même, et qui a été vraiment, la mise en forme a été très bien orchestrée à travers une élection présidentielle. Et on a vu tout le ballet, tout le rituel de transfert de pouvoir, et puis le gouvernement qui en est sorti. C'est remarquable, c'est un bon exemple au niveau du Bénin. Maintenant, toujours à l'analyse, il faut maintenant souhaiter que le cas du Sénégal ne se retrouve pas au Bénin, parce que c'est-à-dire que, en fait, on espère que le président Talon est vraiment parti. Parce que on est obligé de raisonner dans ce sens-là, parce que bon, nous avons vu des pays qui n'ont pas réussi à transférer, notamment le cas du Sénégal. On se rappelle du cas de Karim Wade, le fils du président Abdoulaye Wade, qui fête son 100e anniversaire, qui aurait bien voulu faire ce qui s'est passé au Bénin, il aurait bien voulu le faire avec son fils. Mais le peuple sénégalais s'y est dressé. Donc, on est obligé de regarder tout cela. Et il ne faudrait pas qu'on se dise simplement que le cas du Bénin, bon, il est bon. Le président Madani, qui a tout le mérite, il a un excellent profil. Ben, nous devons rester vigilants, nous les pays africains, sur ce que nous voulons, que cela puisse nous permettre de penser aussi au niveau du Cameroun à des mécanismes aussi pacifiques où respecter le jeu politique sénégalais qui, de notre point de vue, est remarquable parce que le président Sonko, Ousmane Sonko est passé Premier ministre à président de l'Assemblée nationale dans un processus tout à fait démocratique. Des juristes ont voulu contredire ce mécanisme, mais les Sénégalais, dans leur souveraineté, les députés et autres, ils ont dit non, voilà ce que nous voulons. Et puis le président Sonko est arrivé et on se rappelle du discours très responsable qu'il a prononcé après son élection à l'Assemblée. Tout cela nous donne à réfléchir. Est-ce que cela est possible dans tous les autres pays africains, dans d'autres pays africains, notamment au Cameroun? Ça nous donne à réfléchir. Parce que nous avons noté à travers les réseaux sociaux que les Camerounais tendent à donner plus de leçons à ce qui se passe, à analyser ce qui se passe ailleurs. Mais chez nous, on est un peu plus... on perd souvent notre objectivité, voilà.
Well, that brings us back to our beloved country, Cameroon, and the whole idea of looking outside Cameroon is to figure out what lessons we can learn. What lessons we can learn, I would say, is based on the many conversations we've had here, Leopold, every Saturday. A few months ago, we started looking at the resources of Cameroon, and we discovered that the way our resources have been managed has a direct relationship to the way our country, the constitution of our country itself, has been adulterated. We learned in this process that the motivations behind the administrative structure of our country itself is one that is not necessarily in the interest of the people, but more related to what lies beneath the soil, oil. We together discovered that there were challenges, the many challenges that we face as a country, whether it is the Anglophone crisis, the management of our resources, the ethnic division or conflicts that take place where, it's one tribe against the other. All of those are rooted in the design of our country, in its constitution. But if you really went back and figured out the vision, the dream, the goal of this project called Cameroon, it was really supposed to serve as an example for the rest of Africa, and not us looking at Africa as at other countries in Africa as an example, because the joke which is said in Cameroon, Le Continent, in reality, it is, we have all the features of African countries in one country. And even more importantly, we have the colonial heritage, German, French, English. There's no country on the continent that has gone through that, and you can throw in the Portuguese before even. That's unique. Cameroon is very, very unique in that context. And we should be the example. But for us to be able to achieve that, I know as I look at other countries and see how they've evolved, you absolutely need to revisit the foundation of Cameroon. And that foundation lies in redefining the nation, lies in a new constitution for the country, Cameroon. And that's the conclusion that we have arrived at. In the last few weeks, we started talking about what a convention, a constitutional convention will look like. And in the, just to be careful here. And in the last, this week, we really want to start talking about how are we going to do it? And we want to embark on this national mobilization campaign, both in Cameroon as well as in the diaspora. So that's what we are going to be talking about today. Leopold, we spoke about, many people wonder, how are we going to do this? And the process begins with national engagement, and I'm going to try to go through a presentation here about that. But if Leopold, if you want to introduce that to our French speakers before
Oui, tout à fait. Tout à fait, Harry. À partir d'aujourd'hui, nous sommes, à travers la présentation que tu vas faire, nous voulons commencer à exposer au peuple comment nous entendons procéder pour cette convention constitutionnelle que nous envisageons, dont nous parlons depuis la semaine dernière. Et dans pas mal de forums, nous avons distillé, ventilé des résumés sur ce projet-là. Et nous nous sommes donné 4 mois pour cela. C'est très ambitieux, mais c'est parfaitement faisable. Et à travers les feedbacks que nous recevons, ça et là, c'est plutôt encourageant. Donc, nous voulons, à partir d'aujourd'hui, montrer un peu, commencer à dévoiler un peu le processus, les différentes étapes, sans rentrer dans un certain nombre de détails, mais au moins essayer d'être le plus clair possible sur là où nous voulons aller. Voilà un peu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leopold. And I'm going to share here. I'll run through this presentation, and Leopold, as I go along, I may pause from time to time for you to come in for our French-speaking audience. So I'm going to go as slowly as I can, and I hope everybody can see my screen. So our goal here is to have this national mobilization campaign, and what I'm doing here is providing a framework. Our goal is to engage at least 1% of the population, approximately 250,000 Cameroonians, in this process of drafting a new constitution of Cameroon. And this process will take place from between June 15 to July 15 of 2026. Leopold?
Oui, nous envisageons, dans ce cadre-là, nous avons l'ambition de mobiliser, de toucher 1% de la population, environ 250 000 personnes, et nous nous donnons pour période du 15 juin au 15 juillet pour pouvoir le faire.
Yeah. Thank you, Leopold. And so we would also, the objectives obviously for this process is to, like I mentioned earlier, it's really to engage 1 million Cameroonians, 1% of our population. We're going to do this with leverage digital offline means. Everybody is going to be welcome in this process so that we do not leave anyone out of the process. So in doing this, we are going to establish some kind of credibility. We're going to educate people. We're going to give Cameroonians the ownership of the process of, for the first time, historically participating in deciding the kind of future that they want for Cameroon. For the first time, it's not going to have political interest, colonial interest, or anything else. It's going to be about the people of Cameroon deciding for themselves. That is our goal here.
Alors, l'objectif est effectivement de toucher 1% de la population. C'est un chiffre assez symbolique, environ 250 000 personnes. Comment on va le faire? Avec tous les moyens technologiques qui sont à notre disposition. Nous envisageons toujours, dans le contexte de l'éducation qui nous est très cher, de toucher ce public-là, les amener vraiment à s'approprier ce processus, s'engager dans cette définition d'un nouveau Cameroun.
Yeah. And obviously, for us to do this, we're going to need to have leadership and oversight. We're going to put in place an international executive constitutional committee and that will be responsible for the oversight, setting targets, troubleshooting, all of that. And we're really open to any people of good will that want to be part of this. We're going to be looking for experts. We're going to be looking for people who have had some significant experience in the field that will help us in this process. So we cannot do this alone. But on the ground in Cameroon, we're also going to be identifying regional teams with regional coordinators, and we would like to work with especially young people and retired people who are respected within their local communities to help us mobilize as many people to participate in these surveys that will mostly be done, as I said, online, since the majority of people today have mobile phones.
Oui. Il est question donc de leadership pour pouvoir mener à bien ce projet. Et on envisage de mettre en place un comité exécutif international pour pouvoir coordonner tout cela. Évidemment, nous n'allons pas le faire tout seul. Toutes les expertises sont les bienvenues, tant au plan local qu'au plan international. On a besoin donc de toucher, de sensibiliser le maximum de jeunes et même de personnes retraitées qui ont une expertise avérée dans ce domaine-là pour pouvoir nous permettre de mener à bien ces sondages, ces séries de sondages qui vont être conduits pendant ce mois-là.
Yeah, and thank you. We have seen already young people manifesting interest. We look to mobilize 400 to 600 young people on the ground. We're going to collaborate with other organizations that will be able to help us do this. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. There are projects that are ongoing in Cameroon that are mobilizing young people to be able to do other things. And we just partner with them to do the same thing. I really want to highlight, as well as retirees and respected elders in the community, these people have deep trust in they're typically of good moral standing. And we are counting on people like that as well to be able to step up and help us in this process.
Tout à fait, Harry. Nous n'avons pas du tout l'intention de réinventer la roue. Un certain nombre d'organisations bien établies, bien structurées existent déjà au Cameroun, avec lesquelles nous avons l'intention de collaborer. Et nous souhaitons mobiliser de 400 à 600 jeunes pour pouvoir conduire ce projet-là. Et vraiment, des expertises avérées existent déjà. Des expertises avec vraiment, il y a des experts avec bonne moralité, une bonne moralité. Nous avons l'intention de pouvoir travailler avec tous ces experts.
And within the limited time that we have, we would obviously there's going to be some training and capacity building. Again, we are going to be working with organizations that are already structured on the ground in Cameroon. So we will collaborate with any organizations that have the ability to do what we call a cascade model, where we train trainers, and those trainers train people in the region. The training is simply helping civic education, empowering people to participate in this survey, to take their destiny into their own hands. That's all that we're asking the Cameroonian people to do. In the surveys, we're going to be asking simple questions about the future of our country, Cameroon. So yes, there will be training, and then we will be having the surveys that we will be sharing. So the surveys are going to be designed in two ways. There'll be the long form for the more sophisticated audience, more open questions, more leveraging technology, more detailed questions that would focus on national identity, values, aspirations, the kind of governance and rights and responsibilities that we want. What is the structure of the kind of government that you want? What does justice, equity, reconciliation mean to you? Then we'll talk about our economic and social priorities, and then proposals for inclusion and accountability. These are all features that will be in this long-form survey that is really more targeting the urban audiences, the more educated audiences, those who speak French and English. And then there will be a short-form survey that is actually going to be for, but I'll talk about that after Leopold introduces this long-form survey.
Tout à fait. Tout à fait, oui. Nous avons donc l'intention de faire une formation, former aussi les formateurs. C'est beaucoup plus dans le sens de l'éducation civique, c'est-à-dire que comment s'approprier un projet civique de cette envergure. Et nous allons nous appuyer beaucoup plus sur des sondages. Et on aura de deux types. Il y aura du sondage étendu. Ils seront beaucoup plus destinés à une population urbaine, des gens un peu plus scolarisés, avec des questions du style quelle forme d'État souhaiteriez-vous? Quel est le type de... qu'entendez-vous par égalité, équité? Quelle approche économique pourrait nous convenir? Quel type de gouvernance pourrait être envisagé pour le Cameroun? Ainsi de suite. Donc, voilà un peu ce qui est prévu pour les sondages étendus, qui seront un peu plus longs. Maintenant, la version plus courte des sondages, Ray, tu peux en parler, s'il te plaît.
Yeah. Yes, and then there would be the short form, where the short form is really because we recognize that not everybody in the country is literate, not everybody speaks English and French, not everybody is connected to the internet. Some people, we want even the people in the most rural parts of our country to participate in this conversation. And that's where the foot soldiers will be important, to go in and make sure we're listening to everybody, we're hearing from everybody. And so we're going to figure out the best way to do that, where people are actually going to meet with them where they are and help them go through the questions, which will be short, 10 to 15 questions. And the key themes here would really be around the constitutional themes, maybe the form of the state, language policy, the rights of citizens, you know, what values matter the most to them, and what are some of the biggest challenges that they face. So that's what the short form survey is going to entail. Again, for people who are not as educated as those in the urban areas may be.
Oui, la version courte du sondage sera beaucoup plus destinée vers les zones, pardon, vers les zones rurales, les personnes qui ne sont pas forcément confortables en français ou en anglais, langue principale de la version longue du sondage. Donc, dans cette version courte, nous aurons donc besoin des acteurs vraiment sur le terrain pour pouvoir reformuler dans la langue appropriée pour permettre de collecter les réponses. Des questions du style, je ne sais pas, quelle est la forme de l'État qui pourrait leur convenir, quelles sont les valeurs qu'il faudrait faire ressortir, quels sont les défis auxquels ils sont confrontés dans leur localité respective, etc. Donc, voilà un peu comment on entend découper cela. Donc, personne ne sera vraiment mis de côté. Les langues, ça, ce sera le rôle et on en tiendra compte lors des formations. Les acteurs sur le terrain seront capables de reformuler les questions pour que les cibles puissent y répondre très facilement. Donc, ça sera l'objet de la formation des formateurs et autres.
Merci beaucoup, Leopold. Obviously, for us to do this, we need an outreach and a massive engagement plan. And as we go along, as you're listening, I want you to see your role in this process. Obviously, we're going to leverage mass media. We're going to capitalize on television. We're going to do as much education as we can in churches, in mosques, in Jangi groups. We're going to reach all sorts of community events, village market squares in Kwakwa, in far places across the country. We're going to build partnerships with other civil society organizations, trade unions, student groups, diaspora associations. We're going to leverage influencers, leaders. We need you to endorse this process for us to be successful, for you to own it. But that's the engagement plan that we have. And we're going to, this in itself is going to be one of the topics that we're going to do on a Saturday, because all of these things, we need to break them down. And we're sharing this with utmost transparency so that everybody can take ownership of the process. That's the kind of Cameroon that we want to build with this process. So this process is as important to us as the outcome. Leopold.
Oui, nous envisageons de mettre en œuvre, un plan, un vaste plan d'engagement, et les choses seront menées en toute transparence, ça c'est clair. Et nous avons l'intention d'avoir des partenariats avec des organisations de la société civile locale, les médias, les chaînes de télévision, les tontines, les groupes dans des marchés, ainsi de suite. Donc, nous sommes confiants que suite au travail de formation que nous allons faire, de sensibilisation, de sensibilisation à la citoyenneté que nous entendons mener, nous savons que nous pouvons compter sur un maximum de personnes pour pouvoir nous obtenir les résultats que nous souhaitons. Parce que il faudrait peut-être le rappeler, comme nous le faisons tout le temps, Harry, ce projet n'est pas destiné, n'est pas contre les gens, c'est un projet pour le Cameroun. C'est vraiment important de le faire et nous pensons que vraiment nous sommes confiants. Nous aurons peut-être du mal à collecter toutes ces données parce que les gens vont vouloir s'exprimer parce que c'est un canal par lequel on leur permet de dire ce qu'ils souhaitent comme Cameroun, ce qu'ils aimeraient, quels sont leurs défis.
Yeah. I'm going to stop here and I'll bring in Eric to just, Eric, if you want to talk a little bit about this process, because as we speak about the process, we've said many times and we're asking Cameroonians to understand this. The outcome is incredibly important, but the process is as important as the outcome.
The outcome.
Yeah,
Sure.
Absolutely, Ari. And the way I want to do this is to go back in history and point out a few dates and to demonstrate how we got to where we are today based on the relative ignorance of populations, especially of citizens, where political decisions and actions were going. So I'll recall in 1961, we were told there was a whole lot of debate about the Federal Republic of Cameroon that existed at the time, because it was the Republic of Cameroon that existed at the time in 1960. And in West Cameroon, in what was Southern Cameroon at the time, there was West Cameroon, because it had become West Cameroon. The discussion was about, well, we're going to join our brothers on the other side, as opposed to this country where we are aligned for many, and I say this from the many young people who don't even remember. The anger on the streets of our country of Cameroonians going into the shops, especially run by people from Eastern Nigeria at the time, for the most part Igbo, going into their shops, looking around and being forced to buy by just simply looking or stepping in. It had annoyed a lot of people, and Cameroon citizens wanted out of that. So when the story was told about the need for us to join our brothers, it sounded very friendly on the other side, in spite of the French. So in 1961, we moved into this arrangement of a federal state. It came from the streets, but people didn't know the movement into a federal republic. But that had to be inscribed in the Constitution for it to be meaningful. And then in 1964, major oil finds, I know we touched on this last week, major oil finds in the Gulf of Guinea, especially around Dian and so on. And when Elf Serepka, that found this oil, informed the Élysée, the government in Paris, and they in turn told Ahidjo, the President Ahidjo and the Cameroon government, well, we're going to have to exploit the oil for you. And then Ahidjo said, no, but I cannot authorize that. It has to be done by Foncha and Ngom Joa and Muna and the rest of them. And the French said, no, we don't want to go through those Anglo-Saxons, So the decision was made to dissolve the federal system. It's important we always keep this in mind, to dissolve the federal system. And that led to the 1972 referendum. And prior to that, in the way up to that, after 1964, was the dissolving of multi-party system in Cameroon in 1966. It's important. They dissolved in 1966 the multi-party system, and we had the party unique, UNC, the CNU. And then after the 72 referendum and the unitary state, we move up to 1984. Shortly after that coup d'etat, the coup attempt in April of 1984, shortly after that, Mr. Biya, who survived, decided this will not even be a unitary state anymore. We'll go back to the beginning, the Federal Republic of Cameroon. So exploited the shake-up of the system after the coup attempt. Cameroon. And the reason that was the seed, the planting of the seed of what became Nozo. That is where the problems of Ambazonia, because that name emerged after Mr. Biya signed that decree, not even a referendum. As soon as he went back to the Republic of Cameroon, a lawyer called Goji Dinka said, well, this guy has they've taken themselves out of the United Republic of Cameroon. So we're staying on our own and we'll become Ambazonia. Again, playing on the minds of citizens. There was all of this is being driven by political considerations. And obviously, Mr. Biya, who didn't want the constraints of having to constantly be referring to the Anglophones, planted the seed of what became the Anglophone crisis. And then, of course, in 1996, he took out term limits. So a president could be president for life, essentially. And again, we bought into it. All of this was done through the Constitution. A lot of things fell on the wayside. the cultural considerations, for example, that were built into the constitution of West Cameroon with the House of Chiefs and so on, all of that was thrown apart. And chiefs became tools of the administration to be used according to the whims and wishes and caprices, I would say, of national leaders. That is why we're going back to citizens to say, well, did all of that lead us to the Cameroon we want? And the answer, obviously, everybody will say so, it's no. And all these constitutions were written by so-called experts who almost invariably referred to constitutions that existed in France, for the most part. What were the local considerations? What's the local content? What is the wish of people? That's why it's important that we build into this. We look at, how do our traditions, for example, translate into the new constitution that we hopefully will propose to the nation. We will work on this document and put it out and let Cameroonians see whether it offers them a better future to the Cameroon they want, or stay with a constitution where that can be changed. Because we will have to build strong, triggers within this system so that nobody can stand up and no group of people can stand up and change the constitution at will. So it's important that we understand why we're reaching out to a vast number of citizens. We're not thinking politics, because everything has been driven by politics or economics. We are thinking nation. We are thinking Cameroon. And we're thinking about the future on solid ground, so that nobody can use the Constitution to make us something else but what we want to be. I just thought that, I know, Léopold, you got what I'm saying, sauf si tu veux que moi je répète ce que j'ai dit en français, mais il faut que tu le fasses. We can't hear you, Léopold.
OK. Merci, Eric. Je vais essayer de résumer, mais le point fort, le point de départ que Harry a rappelé et que tu as développé, c'est que le processus que nous voulons suivre est aussi important que le résultat que nous voulons atteindre. Donc, pour cela, il est important quand même, et tu l'as si bien fait, de revisiter rapidement l'historique. Tout est parti de la Constitution, disons, tu as cité des choses qui se passaient avant, avec notre voisin nigérien et autres, avant les années 60. C'est vous qui voyez ça, nous on ne voyait pas encore. Mais bon, puis, à partir de 61, il y a eu la fameuse constitution fédérale, République fédérale. Puis, en 64, on a découvert du pétrole dans la partie occidentale du Cameroun, le Cameroun occidental, comme on appelait à l'époque. Et suite à un certain nombre de pressions que le président Ahidjo subissait de la part de la France, Ahidjo a dit, non, ce pétrole, de toutes les façons, ce sont les populations locales qui devraient l'exploiter, et les Français ont estimé que ce n'était pas possible. Et la décision de dissoudre la fédération est partie de là. Et puis, en 66, il y a eu suppression des partis politiques. C'est-à-dire le multipartisme qui existait au Cameroun a été supprimé en 66. Et les pressions que le président Ahidjo subissait ont débouché sur le référendum de 1972 qui consacrait la République unie du Cameroun, donc en lieu et place de la fédération. Bon, on ne rentre pas dans les détails de l'organisation de ce référendum parce que c'était assez biaisé. Puis, en 84, juste après le putsch du 6 avril 84, le président Biya a décidé de changer l'appellation du Cameroun. On est passé de la République unie du Cameroun, qui unissait donc les deux parties du Cameroun, en République du Cameroun tout court. Et c'est le point de départ de l'Ambazonie. Les gens ont estimé que, OK, comme on revient à la République du Cameroun, qui était antérieure à la République fédérale du Cameroun, alors ça veut dire que nous ne sommes plus partie prenante de cette République et le groupe des Ambazoniens et autres a commencé à naître. Ensuite, en 1996, il y a eu une révision constitutionnelle suite à la période trouble que nous avons traversée en 90-92. Et on se rappelle qu'à cette période-là, il y avait de fortes pressions pour que le Cameroun redevienne fédéral. Et comme les experts, les constitutionnalistes qui étaient là étaient tous des hommes politiques qui avaient des visées clairement affirmées, ils ont plutôt concédé à la création d'un statut spécial pour ces zones-là. Et comme il y avait aussi une forte pression de la limitation des mandats, ils ont donc dit, OK, on limite le mandat à 2, mais on passe le mandat à 7 ans. C'est juste un petit détail sur le 96. Et en 2008, il y a eu cette astuce, cet artifice qui a consisté à lever le verrou de la limitation des mandats présidentiels. Donc, il est bon de rappeler ce parcours et de demander aux Camerounais, sachant que nos constitutions ont toujours été calquées sur le modèle français. Que disons-nous alors de nos traditions, nos valeurs? Comment est-ce qu'on peut faire pour pouvoir les inscrire dans notre constitution? Voilà autant de choses qui nous préoccupent dans la convention constitutionnelle que nous engageons. Voilà un peu rapidement, Eric.
Merci beaucoup, Leopold. You've become, thank you so much for condensing this into French. Is extremely important for us as Cameroonians to make sure that we're communicating to everyone, everywhere, and we don't want to leave anyone out in this conversation as we think about this process. We're going to open up shortly for anyone who has questions or comments, so that everyone can be part of this conversation. But the key of everything that was spoken about is the Cameroonian people. In all of these processes, even in the referendum that took place in 1972, the Cameroonian people have never had the opportunity to be consulted, to be engaged. Even the famous tripartite was not the tripartite that it was tripartite of organizations and institutions, but never representative of the people. And so this exercise that we're trying to do is one that is bound to be historic. It's never been done before. And we hope that it doesn't end in Cameroon. We hope that this inspires other African countries, because most African countries are defined in the context of the West, and we have nothing against that, but we're more than just the West. We are also the motherland, the origins even of the concept of a constitution itself is found in Africa, with the first known constitution ever drafted in the world in the Malian Empire. So this
Timbuktu.
is, yes, in Timbuktu, the concept of human dignity, of equality, the role of women in society, all of these things.
The very first university. Very first university in the world.
Yeah.
Dans les années 1230, 1260, par là.
Yeah. And one thing that we are doing in this process for Cameroonians, we're building a repository of information. And we have somebody who's working full-time, Ivy, she's here, just putting together, collecting all of this information that will become a reference point if you would like to read, if you want to be inspired, if you want to learn. The experts that we're going to work with, they would have a place where they can go to for reference. Historic other conferences that have been held around the world that have made a difference in various countries. All of this work is going on, and it's fascinating, even just how much personally I'm learning and growing in the process. But this has to be taken into consideration, and that's what we're offering Cameroonians in this process. Again, our goal is that many more hands will do lighter work. So we're appealing to everyone, everywhere. Please, again, we're not against anyone. We're for everyone. Whether you are part of the government or not, that's not the point. This is for Cameroon. If we can honestly do this with clean hands and clean hearts, we can leave something for posterity, and that's the purpose of this exercise. Let me look for, I see Hervé, Gobe Hervé, you have your hand up, and I'm going to open up for you to, if you can come in and ask your question or make your contribution. Hervé?
Yes. Bon après-midi. Good afternoon to everyone. Are you getting me?
Yes, Hervé, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Are, because we are part of GCI. Thank you for inviting me to this session. And also, I saw on X somebody in the team, send me an invitation. I was here in the since the beginning of this session, and I'm really happy because no matter anywhere you are in this world, Cameroon is our country. It is our culture. We need to be engaged and to participate. And nowadays we see all what is happening to our country, and also we stand for peace. We stand for democracy. We stand for justice, and I think it will be happen. It will be happen because nothing is eternal. So I have some question, because at a certain time I was lost because I was doing another things indépendamment de ma volonté. So I have 3 questions, and the first one is I want to understand exactly Project Cameroon. C'est quoi le Project Cameroon? So that's my first question. And then as a young man, as a young person, how can I bring my expertise, my experience, my knowledge in order to contribute to this project? And also, I will beg you to maybe after this session to share the template, the PowerPoint, so that those like us that have not been really focused, read a little bit more about our project. But however, I'm really interested in this to bring my something new and also to participate. So that's my first question. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. or Monsieur Eric Sinje. Thank you for the presentation, and also for the translation, for the knowledge. Also, Monsieur Leopold Zesu. So thank you, Senator GCI Are. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes.
Thank you. So merci beaucoup. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Leopold, do you want to take his questions? The first one is, what is Project C?
Okay.
Project C.
Project C. Actually, Hervé, le nom Project C la réponse se trouve déjà dans la question elle-même. C'est-à-dire qu'en fait, nous faisons du Cameroun un projet.
Oui. Oui.
Donc, Project Cameroon, nous voulons un nouveau Cameroun comme projet. Et c'est ces Cameroun, c'est ces citoyens, c'est ces changements, c'est ces cordialités, c'est ces convivialités. Bref, voilà le projet que nous avons pour le Cameroun. Allez, for the expertise, tu as vraiment la réponse qu'il faut. Je préfère te laisser lui répondre.
Yes. Thank you, Eve. Thank you for your questions with reference to this, how we're going to make work, because you had three questions. The first one, Dipol answered Project C. The second one is, as a young person who wants to participate in this process, please step up, join Project C WhatsApp group, which we can drop the link for you to join. Visit projectcameroon.com, our website. We're going to be updating and we're going to be sharing more information. With reference to this process, this process is a process that we hope everyone, including you, everyone can participate. All we are doing is facilitating. What we want is for you to own it. You are the young generation. The future of Cameroon is in your hands. The average age in Cameroon is 19 and a half. 65% of the population is under 30. So this is for you. And if there's anything that we can do to leave for the next generation, is at least a clear plan of the kind of Cameroon that we want, right? So that's the whole exercise that we, Project C, that's just a group of people with goodwill who just want to see a peaceful transformation, peaceful transition and development in Cameroon, open to any Cameroonian to embrace and be part of. So that's really what we're trying to do. And I hope that this is just the beginning of your participation, that you will be back here every Saturday and that you would help us on the ground in Cameroon to be able to bring together people to share their thoughts and voices and opinion in this process, right? And yes, we will share the information with as much people as possible, including you. So
voilà,
let's
le sénateur Harry a parlé.
Yes. I belong to an organization in which I'm a lifetime member, and I have the status of senator, not to be confused with senator in the government of Cameroon.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh, really?
yes.
Okay,
A global organization. So yeah, which I used to run at some point. Let's go on to Eric. Do you have anything to add?
No. I was just going to react to a couple of comments that Marilyn put on the chat, but maybe we could have her come. Yeah, Marilyn is there, so maybe she can open up and actually express those views herself, and then we can react to it.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull over. Multitasking.
Please.
No, yeah, I think thank you, Eric, I think one of the complaints I've been hearing, it's because you have a few people in government that have taken the power. It's not but okay. They've taken the power, they've held on to power. And so one of the issues that we have in Cameroon is power sharing. So you have a group of people who've kept power to themselves. So we have to think of power sharing, and the presidency is way too powerful. So what they say, whatever, haute instruction du président. It's really, the presidency of Cameroon is way too powerful. If you look at other countries, like in the United States, for example, where they put puppets to run the show, and then you have, or the deep state or whoever, the people that actually have the power are, and so I just feel that I think that one of the ways that could solve it, because why are people trying to keep power to themselves is because the presidency is way too powerful. So we could think of ways to diminish, the presidency, make it not as relevant as it is, to become like a ceremonial. I was just thinking, become like a ceremonial role, and then give some of the regions, that way there's more people that have access to power, and then it's less, the corruption, and it's more difficult. It's more difficult because I understand how El found petrol and they didn't want to deal with the people from West Cameroon. They'd rather, it's easier to just come to Yaoundé and corrupt a few people. And then, but if the power is shared, in different places, it's harder to have access. So I was just thinking as I was hearing everything that was saying. So, and then, so that those are my thoughts, really.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thanks a lot. And again, this is what we're trying to ultimately determine by hearing the voices of everybody, and in expanding the range of voices, clearly you see that power also will saber out and eventually, go back to where it is, to the people. That this project will lead us to capturing the voice of the people and translating that into a document we call a constitution. We're looking at other constitutions for inspiration, but ultimately our constitution will be ours. It will belong to us. It'll be an emanation of our people. And you'll see in it, we hope every Cameroonian will find in it reason to be proud to belong to that entity called Cameroon. Anyway, Arish, this is not my show. There's Peter Kwadi and Dr. Manjo, Priscilla, who's there. You may want to call on them, but it's over to you, Ari.
Yeah, we have two.
Ari, sorry, I just want to add again. I don't want to. Also, when power is closer to the people, for example, I've seen Paul Biya one time in my life, one time here in Washington, D.C. So, but when power is close, so Paul Biya really, it's Paul Biya, but when power is closer, if somebody at my regional level from the Southwest region where I'm from is powerful, I know his village, or I might know his uncle or his auntie, it's closer to the people. When you make the regional councils or whatever powerful, then it's closer to the grassroots, as opposed to whoever a pie in the sky kind of person. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Marilyn. And Marilyn, this is exactly the purpose of why we say the process is more important, is as important as the outcome. Because that outcome you're talking about, we want people to believe in it. We don't want to make any assumptions. And that's why you give people the opportunity to participate in what kind of government do you want? What kind of autonomy do you expect? What kind of government do you want? Let those answers come from people. We will then assemble all of those answers and present this to a pool of experts who would now craft a constitution that represents the aspirations of the Cameroonian people, so that it is not what Ari said, it is not what my personal wish is, it is what our total wishes are. And when we have this sum total of our wishes, we all will feel like we own this country, like we own it because we participated in the process, right? That is the idea of this conversation that we're having. I'm going to turn this over to
to put ourselves in the mindset of depending on authorization to do what we have to do from anybody. The whole problem of Senegal today is a president who thinks he needs authorization from the IMF and France because he's been to the Elysee a few times. And the Prime Minister says, no, actually, we're developing a constitution that can respond to world realities, that be our own. It is our own that we bring to the world. We define who we are within that international framework. Because if we don't, we'll never find true sovereignty. It's important to understand this. Tout ceux qui pensent que le Cameroun doit chercher l'autorisation, n'est-ce pas, ou de qui que ce soit pour faire quoi que ce soit en ce qui nous concerne. C'est l'occasion d'identifier, n'est-ce pas, le Cameroun
peut agir sur notre devenir. Nous n'avons pas besoin d'obtenir notre rôle du barrister sénateur Array. La loi dit que ce qui n'est pas interdit est autorisé. Donc, il ne nous est pas interdit de réfléchir sur notre avenir. Mon Dieu, qu'est-ce que Paris a encore là-dedans?
Yeah, we have to think. And I know Professor Dr. Manjo, you've been with us, and I really want to hear your contributions. Your hand was up. Please. And I know that you've been thinking about this. I mean, reading some of your work about the kind of Cameroon that we all want. So we would really like to hear your thoughts on this subject.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Array Obenson. I'm afraid I'm actually on my way. I'm on the train. We might have some hurdles. Yeah, we might have some hurdles. And that notwithstanding, I will attempt to speak. And if anything happens, maybe in about 20, 30 minutes, I'll be off the train. If that's okay, or should I just wait and get off the train before I come on?
Yes, I think we're at the top of the hour. We're going to be closing because we've been running for 2 hours. So if you can share your thoughts,
yeah.
We
okay,
can
let
hear
me
you
just
clearly.
try.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, I just want to say hello to everyone once more, and also I want to extend my appreciation to you, to Sir Eric Ginger, and to every other person who has contributed, to make this meeting of today, and who have been there on this platform even before now, because this is I think I'll say my very first time of really taking off time, coming on time, trying to really have a grasp of what is happening and getting interested. And I'm so happy, and I really feel good that today of all this, what that you people talk about so far, it's really very encouraging, because when I saw the invite and I saw what was written on it, and I looked at the aspect of voicing, I was like wondering to me whose voices need to be heard by whom and how. So my mind just went to every other sphere, to every other perspective. Just like you said, you have been reading my works, and I appreciate that you know, some of the things, some of the values that I stand for from my work. So I was thinking that what are we actually going to discuss in this meeting? That from the very inception, as you just started speaking, and then got on to the presentation of the project, I was really getting really elated. I could see the passion that we all share for our country. I could feel it. I could really feel that I belong to this project. Because before now, I've been wondering, like the other former speaker, that what is Project P all about? but it is like to reformulate Cameroon. And personally, I've been thinking of how to revamp Cameroon, especially on what you, Mr. Ari, spoke about regarding the values that our people will want to expect from their country, or we want to see triumph in this country. I was actually very, very much on that, on those moral values. On, if you read my last work, which I titled Angry, the protagonist, the female protagonist, is very, very disturbed about every other thing that is going on in Cameroon. And she actually sees it that it has to do with the values that the people have chosen to uphold for some time now, foregoing the values that I believe Cameroon was built on or ought to have been built on. Speaking about values, I would like to borrow from Ernest Renan's definition of a nation as a sole spiritual aspect, as a sole spiritual principle, as a sole spiritual thing. So why I applaud this move, which you people have taken the initiative to actually bring it up to this point where you've already had the survey laid out, because I see it addressing this very important aspect of the nation. And I just want to believe that what I think it's Chinja who said it, or you yourself, that the process, the procedure is as important as the outcome. And somebody given to literature as my background, and I believe that literature in itself or theater can be therapeutic. And based on a recent interview that I conducted on racism and discrimination, speaking to the youths, the young Africans in Germany who are athletes, I realized that just the fact that they were speaking, they were given the opportunity to speak out, not even regarding the fact that our findings were channeled to the ministry to see how they can augment some laws regarding racism in sports, especially on the pitch, on the football pitch. I discovered that speaking to these young, talented Africans, especially the ones that are born in Germany, who we fear, or personally I fear will be racist upon and their talent will never come up. I discovered that just speaking to them and them having this opportunity to speak out, I mean, was a milestone. So I'm just trying to applaud and acknowledge what you people are doing, and it's really, really well thought out. It's a very good path on which we are. And personally, I'm not trying to like praise myself, but I don't engage in anything that is going nowhere. Honestly, I don't. But my spirit tells me this is going places, and I am really, really ready to really get engaged and give all my all. And if the survey, say the questionnaires or the aspects, the topics still have room for maybe a little bit of suggestions, I will gladly do so, and will gladly participate and be of assistance in any way I can, because that's my thing. Working with the civil society is my thing. Working for the people, giving the people a voice. Yeah, no doubt. I actually researched on subalternity as it was my really strong point. I'm so elated and I'm waiting to move, and I would like to get a feedback. I'm talking because my phone can go off at any time, so that's why I'm in a kind of rush. So I just like the project, and I am engaged and I'm on board, and I will be happy to receive information how to move forward. I just wanted to make my intent known that I'm on board. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Professor Manja. We actually, Terence here. We will be, so we are developing those questions, the platforms on which the questions will be deployed. All of that is in the works now. And yes, we're looking for more and more people with expertise who can join us in this process, even in the way that we're designing the questions to go out. We try to do it in blocks so that people do not have to fill 40 questions at the same time. We're going to do it piecemeal, 4 questions a day, so people can do it. So we will really leverage technology and science and everything that we've learned to make sure we can reach as many people as possible. So thank you, Prof, for being with us, for sharing your thoughts, and for stepping up. This is what we want of Cameroonians. Own this process. We are just facilitators, but it's up to Cameroonians everywhere to own it, participate in it, and that's how we will get the kind of outcome for our country.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. I saw Dr. Yusuf.
Are, if I may make a comment before.
Chris. Chris, where are you? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I just
good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. This has been a very exciting moment, listening to Hervé, listening to Dr. Manjo and a few others, because it tells me that we are advancing. Dr. Manjo really, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, express what we're trying to do, right? Project C is a very simplistic organization. And sometimes we are trying to make it more complex than what it is. We are just citizens of Cameroon, civil society that love Cameroon so much. And we say the time for just sitting and complaining is over. It's over. And that we just now need, before we saying we're going to take back our country, what country, what kind of country do we want? We have to go through that simple exercise. Thank you, Dr. Manjo. Thank you, Hervé, for expressing your interest to join in. There is no Cameroonian that when you understand the simplicity of Project C, but the big heart of Project C, that you will not join it. It's just, I'm not a politician, and many other people here are not politicians. In fact, we are so naive, it's not even funny. But we just want our Cameroon. Cameroonians are crying, but we so numb. This, I don't want to make it a government thing, because again, we're moving towards where this is not about the government. Like it has been said, it's about trying to find out what Cameroon do we want and how do we accomplish that Cameroon. That blueprint is needed before anything else. If Cameroonians could not have the patience to sit down and answer that question, and who should be against that? Who should be against it? Why should anybody be against it? Be it government, be it France, be it whoever. We don't care what France thinks. France cannot control us defining who we are and how to get there. When we get that foundation, then we can start to answer who is against this, because it's sitting there. So it's exciting to see that we are reaching out slowly to the hearts that we want. And that I continue to say every week, you hear Cameroonians when you talk about with them sometimes, everybody's crying. There's no Cameroonian that you talk to who's not in pain. None, even in Yaoundé. Even, I will keep emphasizing, we have good souls in Yaoundé, technocrats, people that I respect their abilities, but they cannot exercise it. There is no Cameroonian who's not crying. None. No, even the people in a 2D. there is pain, because when you are hurting somebody, you are really hurting yourself. Your soul is not at peace. That's why I keep wondering, in 2026, how can a Cameroonian call themselves a leader, and you are hurting the same people that you are meant to protect? So if a Cameroonian is sitting out there and still saying, okay, you people should do this, you people should do, who are the people? It's us. And that's why I'm excited about seeing Harvey, Dr. Manjo, and others coming in. And we invite all Cameroonians to come in, because this is a non-aggressive approach that we're taking to define our Cameroon. That's all. I want to be able to tell somebody the Cameroon that we want before we start figuring out how to get there. Because right now, most people cannot answer that question fluently. But we have it in our hearts, and we're trying to pull that out and put it down as a blueprint. Project C is Project Cameroon, owned by Cameroonians, not by Big Brother El Chingy, Mr. Leopold, or Array, or Dr. Manjo. It's owned by us. Don't make it, we are just catalysts. There has to be a beginning, leaders in everything. We are just catalysts, and we don't, in fact, if you sit and ask me 1, 2, 3 questions, you realize I'm not that experienced in this stuff. But I do know that I have pain as a Cameroonian, and I'm having an opportunity for my voice to be heard, and also to participate in defining, putting that document that tomorrow the blueprint is there to be used by those leaders. Cameroon will have the leaders that we want. We will have it. We will have it. There's no doubt. It cannot go on like this. That's why I keep calling upon the current leadership to loosen up their minds. Just loosen up your minds and think about Cameroon. Think about Cameroonians. You are supposed to share power with Cameroonians. You are supposed to be benevolent. You are supposed to be servant leaders for Cameroon. Cameroonians are sovereign. And Cameroonians are not wicked people, including these people. So we hope every week, we hope in this program, we will continue to hear more and more people. Come on. Come on. Cameroonians, stop saying you guys should do this. We need you. This is your chance for a naive person like me to join us together so we can speak our naivety, but we know the Cameroon that we want. And you should be unapologetic to talk about the Cameroon you want, because the Cameroon that Christopher Che wants is not superior to the Cameroon that you want. It's not. So this is an exciting moment. Please continue to join for those that are listening. We are just a people that love Cameroon. And Project C is Project Cameroon. Yep. And what is Project Cameroon? Project Cameroon is very simple. Don't make it too complex than what it is. Because sometimes, just join and talk about your story. And from your story, we're going to develop the constitution that we think, a draft constitution that we think can help accomplish that Cameroon that all Cameroonians want. We are not against the government. We are not against France. That's a distraction for us. Seriously, that's a distraction. Those things will come. The right people with the right knowledge will answer those questions or face that problem. Project C does not have the capacity, the ability to face France or face the government or whatever. We are just trying to help us define Cameroon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I had to clap. I couldn't resist.
Good. I wanted to say Pastor Christ.
Oh my goodness.
Amen. Yeah.
Leopold, you should say in French what, at least that piece about the heart coming out, you know. I think you should translate the line from what Chris said.
Non, vraiment, Chris, c'est super. Vraiment, c'est le cœur qui parle et c'est tellement sincère. Et nous savons qu'il y a tellement de Camerounais qui pensent comme lui. Tellement de Camerounais qui pensent comme lui, mais qui n'ont pas l'opportunité de s'exprimer comme il le fait. Et vraiment, c'est super.
Yeah. We have le docteur Youssouf Jimonkop,
Voilà.
who has a comment to make. Look, so I'll ask you to unmute. Dr. Youssouf, yeah. And I think after that we have Terence. Dr. Youssouf, can you unmute? Oh, I think we lost him instead.
Yeah.
He has unmuted.
Bonsoir à tous. Monsieur.
Oui, bonsoir.
OK. Merci. Je vais d'abord exprimer ma satisfaction au concepteur du projet C et également nous féliciter, nous tous qui sommes ici. Je suis en joie, en fait, de faire partie de ce projet qui est en cours déjà, invité par le grand frère Eric. Donc, en estimant que nous allons conduire ce projet jusqu'à la fin, que ça ne doit pas être comme d'autres projets, d'autres initiatives, d'autres associations. Et la prise de parole, ça, déjà, c'est ma première participation aujourd'hui, mais les prises de parole m'ont beaucoup encouragé, car nous, Africains, nous devons penser par nous-mêmes, agir par nous-mêmes, réaliser par nous-mêmes. Et sur ce triptyque qui constitue l'ossature du projet C, vraiment, il est juste temps d'exprimer ma voix et de vous témoigner d'ici. Je ferai l'effort, même si les week-ends je suis au travail, de pouvoir participer et apporter ma petite modeste contribution pour que ce projet puisse effectivement être un projet camerounais et originalement camerounais. Merci encore pour le grand frère qui vient de prendre la parole. Merci au modérateur et au grand frère qui m'a invité.
Merci beaucoup, oui, merci beaucoup, Dr. Youssouf, pour cet encouragement. Nous espérons que ce n'est que le début. La participation peut être par votre voix, votre participation pendant les Zooms, mais aussi même après les Zooms. Il faut intégrer le groupe WhatsApp. Allez sur le site web de projectcameroon.com. Inscrivez-vous dans les différents groupes. Comme ça, on doit continuer à avoir des conversations même au cours de la semaine parce que le vrai travail, en principe, doit commencer au mois de juin où on va lancer déjà les sondages sur toute l'étendue du territoire et aussi avec la diaspora. Mais ce que j'aimerais vous encourager à faire, c'est aller dire aux autres ce qu'on est en train de faire parce qu'on a besoin de beaucoup plus de Camerounais. d'associer à cette initiative. Une initiative qui, comme vous avez bien dit, est la nôtre. Initiative camerounaise pour des Camerounais, pour un avenir meilleur pour les Camerounais. Merci beaucoup, Dr. Youssef. You know, as the day goes older, I begin to find my French.
mais tu nous inquiètes. Tu nous inquiètes.
I have to join
Avec
you on
ton
that
assurance,
one.
mais c'est formidable.
Yes. So at this point, I would be, if there are any questions, I know Terence, you wanted to say something. I would turn it over to you. And then if there are any other questions, we'll address that. If not, we'll go on to our closing remarks. Terence?
I think just it is impressive and very important to be appreciative of all the comments that have been made. Now I'm more on the listening side to get a lot of feedback, input. I think this process is one of those that you go in with an open mind, one, cognizant of what Mr. Chije said at the beginning, what is going on around Africa, what is going on in Senegal, what is going on in Benin. The tides are changing. And whether people like it or not, whether the powers that be in whatever continent like it or not, you know, the time is changing. Now it is up to us to either to identify and be part of that change and be part of history, or read the history book and claim to be there. So it is very important from my perspective for everyone to look at themselves and say, what is my purpose at this very point in history? Why am I here? What is my purpose? All the knowledge, all the education, all the expertise I have has brought me to this point. And there is a need for change. What is my purpose? Can I contribute? Silence is not an option. Being inactive is not an option. That actually is an action in non-participation. So if we want to be governed by the minority, by, as I call it, the least common denominator, that is fine. But be ready for the consequences. Now is the time for everyone to put in their little bit. Suggestions, financial, criticisms, constructive criticisms are the best, because we need something that can go forward. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Terence. I know you're working behind the scenes to help us build this thing, the platforms. We are very, very grateful. And yes, to your point, it's very important that we write history, not just read history written by others. And that's what we're trying to do at this moment. We're writing a new page in what will be the history of our country, Cameroon. What will that history be? And would you be part of writing that history on this new page? That's the opportunity that this moment presents. Yeah.
If I may add something to what Terence just said, because it joggled my memory. Thank you, Terence, for that. Yeah, you ask yourself, why? I've asked myself many times, why did I join Project C, right? And Terence just said something that I think all Cameroonians should ask themselves. I believe that my purpose in life is really to use all God has given me in what form or shape to uplift others. And like Terence just said, what is our purpose? And I just think what he said may really help many of us figure out how to support Project C. At least for me, because, and I'm saying this because I know there are other people struggling with the same thing, and Terence just said it in a very simple way that at least it hit home to me. I hope everyone picked up what he said. I remember I was in Yaoundé maybe a year and a half ago at the Hilton, and I would leave and walk up to Marché Central on Kennedy Avenue and stand there for about 3 hours watching the young Cameroonians, the buy and sell them and so forth, and the faces of young kids, how they're working so hard and selling whatever they're selling. And sometimes I'll buy all the granite that one of them was selling and then tell them to go back and sell it. But then as I'm walking back to Hilton, I'm like, how does that help? Where do you begin to help? It's so humongous. So I felt useless getting back to the hotel because what I just did really meant nothing. I mean, how many can you buy and say, go back and sell? Right? That's an expression of frustration because I don't have the kind of money or the power that I think I can do to really help. But it was, and I did that many times, standing at Marché Central and seeing how entrepreneurial those young kids are. And if you give them 50,000 or even 20,000, there it will make a difference to them. And I'll tell one more story real quick, Ari. I think this is important. It has to do with how young Cameroonians are coming up with ideas on how to help Cameroon because everybody's frustrated. And I learned of a program called microfinance program that was written. And I met with these people. They said, there's some days that a Benzikin and a taxi driver, a bar owner, come in the morning because their child was sick or they have a death in the family or mother was sick, they took all their capital and spent it that night. So they come back the next morning, they're standing by their motorcycle or by their taxi. There's no money to put gas. And so these young people came up with this program, which is active right now, by the way, where any Cameroonian can go in and borrow money. Some technology, don't ask me the details of the technology, but they're able to pay back by the end of the day or the next day. And they invested millions and millions of francs in that program, and the money was gone by 6 a.m. in the morning because people borrowed and they're paying back. So I'm just saying this to say that how we search our purpose for Cameroon. These are Cameroonians. Okay, this is an independent project that is going on just to support the fact that it doesn't take a lot to help Cameroon. But our problem is so huge at almost every angle that is almost, it just feels so heavy on where to start. And that's why, for me, Project C makes sense. Because I realize there's nothing that I alone can do or any Cameroonian alone can do and with no powers to help Cameroon. So Project C is where I'm channeling my energy to help Cameroon. I know it's kind of long-winded, but I hope that it from what Brother Terence said there, I just wanted to express that because I know many Cameroonians are going through the same thing. Yeah. How do I, there's no sophistication about it. I keep going back to the simplicity of it because I think don't get too complex as you think about Project C and how you can contribute, how you can be a part of it. Just join. It's just what it is. Thank you, Brother Terence, for juggling my memory there.
Yeah. And thanks for the stories that you just shared, because at the end of the day, it all boils down to building a solid foundation that will allow for us to address these many challenges. At this point, we will be wrapping up our conversation this week, knowing that we have shared with you what this process is going to look like. Next week, obviously, we will come back and we will start talking about the surveys. In fact, next week on this show, we're going to kick off the first surveys. And we hope that everybody that will be attending is going to be taking part in those surveys so that we'll have all of the month of June to get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Cameroonians to express themselves in this surveys. So please, we count on you and your network. We count on you talking to your brothers, to your sisters, to your neighbors, to your colleagues, to your enemies, people in your Njangi groups, in your church groups, your prayer groups. All of those people have a voice. People in the village, people that you send money to, people that are working on your projects that you have in Cameroon. Everywhere across the country, we will have people reaching out to the Bensikinas, to the taxi drivers, to the people in the villages, in the remote parts of Cameroon. Everybody will be participating. This is history. This is a historic initiative and a historic moment. So we will come back next week and we're going to start looking even at some of the initial responses that we're seeing, the trends. We'll have a visual that we're going to share with you about how this is going to unfold. My brothers and sisters, this is our moment, and we call upon you to own it, to be part of it. For us to succeed, everyone has to participate in the process. Eric, I'll turn it to you for closing remarks. Except that Leopold.
Except Leopold maybe just wants to speak on what you said, and then we close.
En fait, nous invitons l'audience à partir de samedi prochain. Nous allons vraiment rentrer dans le vif des sondages et on ne peut qu'inviter vraiment le public à prendre part à ce processus-là, à s'investir, à s'approprier ce processus qui consiste à définir quel Cameroun nous voulons vraiment. Et de façon simple, donc dès la semaine prochaine, on rentre dans le vif des sondages. Et on a un mois pour cela, on l'a dit, donc du 15 juin au 15 juillet. Mais avant, on va découper, comme il y a la forme longue et la forme courte du sondage, on va rentrer dans ces détails-là dès samedi prochain. Donc vraiment, soyons nombreux à prendre part vraiment à ce processus, à écrire l'histoire, rentrer dans l'histoire, parce que l'histoire habituellement est écrite par les vainqueurs, mais cette fois, c'est nous qui allons écrire notre histoire, quel Cameroun nous voulons vraiment.
Et ça sera nous les vainqueurs.
Oui.
Ah non, ça c'est clair. Il est hors de question que quelqu'un soit vainqueur. C'est nous qui écrivons. Mais parce que nous écrivons l'histoire, nous serons les vainqueurs.
En remerciant donc tout le monde, je reconnais la présence parmi nous de Cynthia Foncha, évidemment. Pour le,
bien nommé.
Oui, Foncha. Et puis pour dire qu'Elisabeth Mouna, parce qu'elle voulait qu'on explique son absence. I know Elizabeth told you to apologize to everybody. She'll be back with us in a week or two, I think.
Yeah.
Donc, je voulais quand même signaler cela, que les enfants des gens qui étaient là à l'origine, hein, pas Foncha d'un côté, pas Mouna de l'autre, et tous les autres, nous autres, nous sommes tous maintenant embarquer sur ce voyage historique. Et j'espère que vous allez tous rester avec nous. Viviane Ayafo, merci d'être là. So thank you, Ari. I think that's it. It's over to you to tell us whether we should go home now or not, but we'll be ready for next time.
Yes. So thank you everybody again for being here. We will be back next week. Again, if you, in the meantime, please support Project Cameroon. Visit our website. You can make a contribution there. All of that is going to go into this project. Join the WhatsApp group so that we can update you. We will try as much as possible to moderate the WhatsApp group in the next week so that it is strictly focused on this project, so that we can capture everybody's attention. This is a moment that calls for great patriotism, great commitment, and we thank you for stepping up and being part of it. So we'll see you again next Saturday for another Project C Zoom. Take care, everybody.